What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catchpolia again, sitting on the couch, trying to make some money investing in fractional real estate online, as usual. Although today, what we're actually looking at is an investment in mortgages, so debt backed by real estate. And specifically, what it is, it's the Arrived Homes Private Credit Fund. Just want to talk to you a little bit about this. There's been a lot of buzz about it on the internet. I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of what it is, what I think about it, and how it compares to some of the other platforms that I'm investing in right now. If you recall, I already did a video about Arrived Homes, their typical product, which is buying, equity stakes in some of the properties they put out. Spoiler alert, I decided against doing that, investing in those, but I'll put a link to the video below to give you my reasoning. And, as always, just because I do or don't decide to invest in something, it doesn't mean it's the right answer for you. One, I could certainly be wrong about a lot of my assumptions, but two, my personal financial situation is just different than yours. I think what my risk tolerance might be, what types of alternative investments I can pick that get me a better return. And so there's a lot of reasons that just because I say, okay, I'm putting my money into this one, it doesn't mean that you should. So please do your own due diligence on that. But as far as, wanted to just give you a little bit of information. What is this private credit fund? Do I think that it's, going to be a good investment for me? So let's look at it. What it is actually, like if I'd encourage you to look through every single bullet point that they have. You can actually pull up their offering circular. You can look at their FAQs. But on a very broad strokes, what is it? It's a private REIT, or it's not a public REIT, and so it's a real estate investment trust that's holding mortgages. Their goal is to buy in it. The description says that they buy the mortgages, so they're not acting as the lender and then packaging this up. They're actually buying them. I think it's interesting. They're showing their total assets at the moment, and it's across 40 active loans, and they've had 14 completed ones. This is and their current dividend yield is 8.1%, and so targeting higher yields between 7 and 9%. Um, they talk about having quarterly liquidity available. It's backed by first mortgages on residential properties that are either being flipped or new construction or bridge loans. And they mentioned that they're recourse loans, which makes them a little different. If you've been following me for a little while, I've talked quite a bit about Groundfloor. And what you're buying on there are limited recourse obligations. And they tend to not be full recourse loans that you're getting on that platform. And so I think it's a little bit of a distinction. You hear all kinds of people talking about, oh, this is a Jeff Bezos backed company. I think that's great. I think it means the company will probably succeed. It doesn't necessarily mean they're offering a great deal for us, right? I mean, I've been a seller on Amazon, and I've been a customer, and we're not always getting the best deal. We get, it's a good customer experience. But just because he backs a company doesn't mean that it's a great investment for us. But it's something that a lot of people mention, and so I want to throw it out there and just give you my perspective on that. So it is a fund, right? You're not picking individual loans, and so you get some diversification right away. Now it's right now it's only 40 active loans. I mean, if you have remember my ground floor videos, I've already bought, I think, 51 pieces of 51 loans on there. And if you use their flywheel portfolio, I think you instantly get like 260. So at least at the moment, it seems like, and that's kind of what I'm comparing this to, because it is the other main debt product that I'm investing in. um if you compare it to their flywheel portfolio, where you get 260 loans, you're getting much more diversification over there than you are here. Now, one of the things that I couldn't find very much info on is who they're really actually buying those loans from, and so you might be getting some diversification across lenders, which means having different underwriting standards and whatnot. I don't know that that's the case, but it's another argument that maybe I want to take an 8.1% return. Now, one of the things when you dig into this, they give you that anticipated return. Oh, where do we go? I think we need to look at the offering tab to see this. is, there are fees to take your money back out, so it's locked up. And so they're saying, okay, if you hold it for 5 years, you should get that 8.1%. If you only hold it a year because of redemption fees, it's going to be less. And so I think that's an important distinction. All the floor LROs that I've invested in, have had a term less than 2 years, and most of them are expected to pay off around a year or a year and a half, I believe. And so, it's a shorter time period that you're locking up money. Now, I do think you can actually, after 6 months, get money out. Um, yeah, you can't redeem it all at 6 months, but within 6 months, you can get your money out and, have a 2% fee. So, maybe there's a little bit more liquidity. But it is, in general, you're not expected to get that return unless you hold for eight or for 5 years. Which to me, that it's kind of a big negative, because over the next 5 years, what you where interest rates are headed and all sorts of things can change, and I might want to move my money to a different investment. So for that reason, I'm not very excited about this. Right, the 8.1% annualized yield. Um, it's not terrible. I mean, it's a dividend, so it's an actual yield, but it's let me compare. If you look on Groundfloor, which is where I've been putting a lot of my debt money, money that's investing in mortgages, and just to be perfectly upfront, the vast majority of my money is not going on any of these platforms. I'm still invested in real estate in real life, and I'm primarily invested in mortgages in real life. Almost all of my, the vast majority of my net worth is private mortgages, where I bought a property all cash, sold it with a mortgage, and I'm taking payments over time. And on those, I'm getting significantly higher returns than what I've been able to find on really any of the platforms. As far as my interest rate's not really high, but because it comes with the flip of the property, which is, I'm not actually doing work on the property, but because I'm providing financing, I get a premium, and so my total returns on those are significantly higher. And it's part of the lens that I look at all of these with, right? Like, if you don't have that opportunity to make 20-25% returns pretty easily on a debt product that just takes some upfront work and then you're just collecting payments, well, then, maybe 8.1% sounds pretty good, or maybe, Groundfloor, where they've averaged, I think they say on here, they tell you earn reliable returns of about 10%, and they've been in business for over 10 years now, I believe. And they put out something recently where they said their average return's been about 10%. I think they said 10.3 or something, but I couldn't find it today when I was looking. So, it's a longer track record, right? Where the Arrived Homes one is brand new, and they've their track record is a higher number than what Arrived Homes is actually, stating that they're gonna expecting to make today. So when I'm comparing those two things, it doesn't seem like it's a great um, value proposition relative to Ground Floor. Some of the things that you can think about, maybe the risk is lower because there are, there recourse loans. So the borrowers that borrow the loans actually have to, the company or the fund could potentially go back and try to collect money from the borrower if they foreclose on the property and the property's not worth enough. Now, if you're the types of loans that they're doing, you're expecting your collateral is going to be your main source of repayment. So to me, I don't believe that reduces my risk enough for me to want to give up 2% more in return. Depending on what your risk profile is, maybe that does. Maybe that makes up for it. Now, I'd rather have the broader diversification of being able to buy more into more loans, but I would expect that over time, that this REIT that they have, that they're what are they calling it again, their private credit fund, is going to have significantly more loans than they do now. I mean, it is a relatively new product. They're limiting how much you can invest in it at the moment, because I think they're probably not able to buy loans as fast as they're able to raise money at the moment, which is, I think, is pretty interesting. And so, over time, it could be that this becomes a superior product. buying into it when it's relatively new, has no real track record, and is offering to pay me less than what, than the track record has been for ground floor. Now, remember, just because people have made that on their platform doesn't mean you'll continue to. And that's when you're buying, getting a broadly diversified portfolio of their LROs, which either takes some work or takes you buying into their flywheel portfolio, which does come with a fee. So there are some trade-offs, but I think when I compare those, I just put a video out a couple of days ago where I just went and put some more money on ground floor. It seems to me to be the superior product. There are certainly some trade-offs, and that's what you'll want to look at. But as far as I don't really get what the excitement is about. If I'm targeting an 8.1% return, uh, and over a very over a long period of time, I don't know why I'm not just buying a like a index fund, right? I mean, I guess the answer is you're getting dividends here, and you're so it turns into monthly income. Um, but it just doesn't seem to be, and I guess that's the difference, right? Like, I mean, if you're getting your dividends paid out, paid out monthly, versus ground floor, you're actually holding. You don't get your interest payment until each one is paid off. So I guess that's one reason that if I were counting on this for monthly income, and I hadn't set it up in such a way that I'm getting paid out regularly, which what you could do on ground floor, it just would take some time. Um, I guess that would be one reason why I'd want to pick this over that. But the other thing is too is one of the things that they're assuming is that the share price doesn't change, right? They're saying your yield is going to be what your dividend yield is. A lot of different, it is a non-traded or a privately traded, non-traded. You'll have to look and see which one they actually say it is, and I don't understand the distinction, and maybe I'm making up one of those two terms to be perfectly frank. But it is, maybe the value of that share price goes up or down. But they're assuming that it stays at 10% or $10 over the whole hold period. And so, it's an additional risk, I think, but it's also maybe a potential for additional return if that price goes up. A lot of times when there are a lot of mortgage REITs out there, which might be a better comparison to this. There are publicly traded mortgage REITs. And I think that would be an interesting thing. And that's something, I don't invest in REITs anymore. I used to quite a bit. I actually have worked for a couple different publicly traded REITs. I believe that at least the ones that I'm really familiar with, there's just a lot of waste in their system. And it's one of the reasons why I've always wanted to just get access to the individual real estate or loan and invest on that level than in the company or fund as a whole. Because sometimes it's tough to really parse through all the fees and expenses, when it's within the larger entity, and when you're looking at the specific property and the loan, it's a little bit easier to figure out where the fees are. And so, when we looked at Arrived Homes and you're buying the individual properties, and I said, wow, the fees are high on there. Um, have to believe that you've got plenty baked into how they're making their money on here. Now they do mention that there's an asset management fee. They there's it is all, you can look at their circular, and I had it pulled up earlier, and I decided that I don't think it is. I'm not going to try to read through this with you or really go through it, but you can find out about also what their fees are, what their expenses are, all that sort of thing. But it just is much more convoluted than if I'm saying, hey, I'm buying a piece of this specific mortgage, this is the interest rate on the mortgage. Yes, I know on that one they were charged a fee by the lender when it was originated, but from this point forward, this is what my return's going to look like. I just always prefer that, because it's a little bit harder to it's a little bit easier for me to understand and to know, like, hey, do I like that investment at that rate of return, versus really trying to understand what this pool of loans looks like, what their ongoing business looks like, and whatnot. I mean, I think that that's my personal preference, and you could certainly make a case for, wanting to just have a professional out there buying a pool of assets for you, and you're just, making your money off of that return. You have to just figure out, like, okay, is that 8%, 8.1%? Am I happy with that? And obviously, for any of these investments that are yielding higher returns, um, there's no free lunch, right? Like, you're getting additional risk to get paid a higher return, to a certain extent. I mean, but when you compare similar products with similar risk profiles, then obviously you want to say, hey, if one of them is providing me, more money, that's the direction that I'm going to go, right? But in general, it's not as if I'm getting 8.1% on this versus, 4 or 5% in a high yield savings account. Um, this is a riskier product than a high yield savings account, right? It's not FDIC insured. You don't have that same sort of backing. Like, those are the things that you want to think about. Like, um, I've seen a lot of people, and I've even talked to quite a few since I started doing these videos, who bought into some properties on some of these platforms that were promising extremely high yields. And the problem, it's one of the jokes that I really enjoy, is that, mice die in, this is a little bit dark, but mice die in mouse traps because they don't understand why the cheese is free. And that's applied to a lot of different things, but it is, it's why investors get in trouble, right? They don't understand where that return is coming from. They think it's free money, and that's the trap, right? Uh, in any case, I think for today, at least for me, this is definitely not one I'm going to be putting any money in. It doesn't seem compelling to me relative to, the ground floor investments that I'm making, or even the other, another thing to compare it to is, on Lofty, there's the universal lending DAO, which is, significantly different, because that is not, it's lending to the other um, property entities on Lofty. It's giving you a much higher stated interest rate, but it is, you're not getting a first, a first position lien on those properties. So it's much different risk profile, but those are smaller loans and it's spread out across more properties. I don't know, but that'd be, if I were thinking about investing in that, in this, that would be another point of comparison that I'd want to make. Like, right? Like, I'd want to compare it to ground floor. Do I think, what does it look like compared to that? And I think I gave you my opinion on that. Compare it to some high yielding mortgage REITs, which there are plenty of them out there. Those, I think you really have to get into the weeds and in analyzing, like, um, there's some that spit out a really high yield, but then the value of the shares go down regularly, and that doesn't do you any good in the long run. And so that's a little bit of my worry about anytime you have a REIT or a fund, is that, you have both risks, right? Where if you're investing in the loan itself, you have repayment risk, but you don't have the risk of, like, that loan going down in value. Like, the loan is what it is. It's, now, the value of your dollars might get depreciated away, but it's not as if, the loan amount is going to change, right? Unless you just have a problem collecting, which, is one of the real risks of investing in mortgages in general. Um, in any case, I just wanted to share my opinion on this. I think, it seems like there's just a lot of people out here hyping it. I don't really understand why. It doesn't seem like it is, a superior product to the ones that we currently have available. I think if you're excited about investing in something that Jeff Bezos has backed, just keep in mind, you're not investing in his company, right? You are his customer in this situation. And so, it's like being excited about using Amazon, not investing in Amazon stock, right? Because they're making money running the platform and running the REIT. They're not making money by investing in it, and so that's a distinction that I think it seems to be lost on some of the other YouTubers that I've seen get all excited about this program. There is a lot of good info out there, though. There's people taking a much deeper dive into, all the different bullet points and whatnot. But I think if you read through this, you get a good sense. And I'm not saying I think this is a bad investment. I mean, for the right person with the right goals, this could potentially work for you. But for me, for what I'm trying to do, I just I don't see the benefit in doing this over, I am invested in Lofty's Universal Lending DAO. I've been putting money onto Groundfloor. And then, like I said, I mean, I have a whole bunch of my money in private mortgages that I hold personally, individual mortgages. And so, to me, there's not a real benefit in adding this to it. And I mean, I think it makes me sound a little crazy to be like, I'm not excited about an 8.1% yield. I'm just not. I think that if I'm going to try to do something that is not, that's not just buying an S&P 500 index fund, then I want to be getting paid a reasonable amount for the additional risk that I'm taking, right? And maybe some could argue that this is a similar risk, or maybe they think, they want to tell you it's an even lower risk. Um, and that's why you should be excited about that return or maybe it's because it's paid current, right? Like maybe because you're getting that annualized dividend paid current, that's a better situation for you. And I think that that's a reasonable argument for someone who's trying to live off of those dividends. It's just not the spot that I'm in. So, I think that there's any number of different options that I would prefer to this one. Uh, but again, take a look at it. I think it's worth taking a look at, comparing to the other products that are out there, and make that decision on your own. I mean, I think one of the things I'm going to do is check back in on this, as the number of loans. I mean, it's just 40 right now, which is so small, especially for such a large company, or a company backed by someone with a lot of money. At least once this has 1,000 loans or 10,000 loans, or 50,000 loans, like that's not a unrealistic goal, I don't think, right? To have, thousands of loans in a platform like this. Then all of a sudden you're getting a lot more diversification. Once it has a track record of really like spitting, well, I guess maybe it is, because these aren't just like first mortgages on individuals. It's like ongoing renovation projects or flips or new construction. So maybe it is unrealistic to get too many loans, um, because of the churn. Let me think about that. I didn't think about it when I was thinking about what I was going to say in this video. Obviously, a lot of times I only have a very rough idea of what I want to talk to you about. And this is not, the most scripted channel ever, right? I'm really just trying to give you my thoughts. Sometimes just in real time. Obviously, that's why I get a lot of mistakes from me. So I try to apologize for that when possible. I don't think I've apologized for not being better looking in a while, but I wanted to tell you that as well. Um, in any case, I think that's all I really want to say about this for today. Until next time, I'm going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.